Hello, friends. Thank you to all of you who filled out the survey that I sent out last week regarding our regathering. That's going to really help us as our elder team looks at how are we doing this plan, what's going to work best for all of us. And so, thank you and stay tuned. More information coming soon regarding our regathering this summer. I want to tell you a story from the Carlson family kitchen, something that happened this week. So Molly was preparing a meal and it had bacon in it. And so all of the bacon grease, you probably have pans that have a little drip tray and it catches the bacon grease. After she made the bacon, she had the bacon grease. Now, normally we have a little tin can and you pour the bacon grease in there so that it doesn't get poured down the sink or down the drain, whatever. But on this occasion, that tin can had been thrown away, it was missing, and so Molly just grabbed the nearest can, which happened to be the beverage that she had just finished drinking. Uh, Organic raspberry lemonade, sparkling raspberry drink. And so she just poured the poured the bacon grease in there, and there was a fleeting thought, Erin is probably going to try and drink this. But she set that can down and onward with life. Well, enter Erin, stage left. I walk into the kitchen and I notice, ooh, Molly left her drink. And so I pick it up and I take a swig and immediately I know that something is wrong. And I turn around to Molly. I've got this thing I do where I talk with liquid in my mouth and Molly, what did you put in this can? And she starts laughing, bacon grease. Now, don't get me wrong, I love bacon, but when you are expecting organic raspberry lemonade and what you get is a can full of soft bacon grease, it really feels like you need to just flush your whole mouth out, wash your whole mouth out really well. And so we both got a good laugh out of this. And I don't know if she could have pranked me better if she tried. Now, that story has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about today. I just needed you to know uh, leaving desirable beverage cans around the house filled with random substances may yield varying results. Today, what we're actually doing is soaking in the Sermon on the Mount, part two. So hopefully, you have already watched part one last week. If you haven't, I would kind of recommend pausing the video, going back and doing part one. But either way, so last week we were in Matthew chapter 5, and today we are jumping back in Matthew chapter 6. Not the whole chapter, just Matthew chapter 6 through where we had made it before quarantine. And what we're doing is seeking to get the words of Jesus from the information part of our brain to the integration so that it's not just I've got these ideas that Jesus said, but now I have stories and experiences and emotions and actions. Now, before we jump into Matthew chapter 6, I want to spend a moment on this question. This is actually going to relate to your first discussion question. Why do you forget the things that you forget? And why do you remember the things that you remember? Theologian Richard Bauckham says we seem to forget much more than we remember. We forget hundreds, if not thousands, of things every day. The Memory Institute says it a little differently because they say the information, it doesn't actually leave your brain. They say that your brain's method of retrieval is lost. And so it's like the information's there, but you don't have a way to access it. Either way, the discussion question, your first discussion question is personally for you, why do you forget the things that you forget? And why do you remember the things that you remember? What is it that causes you to remember? And what is it that causes you to forget? So pause the video and have that conversation. The reason that we remember the things that we remember has to do, at least in part, with the meaning that we attach to our memories. Did that come up in the conversation that you just had? For instance, so I probably won't drink a organic raspberry lemonade in the near future without thinking about bacon grease. Meaning, in a very real sense, our memories represent who we are. They represent and influence our ideologies, who we are a disciple of, who we're following, our habits, our fears, our hopes for the future. It's meaning. But the meaning that is attached to a memory can be changed. And when our perspective is altered on life, it's as if our memories are recolored. And when our memories are recolored, it can change what we're afraid of. It can change what we value. It can change our ideology, who we're following, what system we're subscribing to. We may drop old habits. We may start new habits. It can change what we hope for the future. What if God is less concerned with what you can remember and more concerned with the meaning of your memories? God doesn't love us any more or any less based on how strong of a memory do we have, or is my memory failing? God doesn't measure love for humanity in that way. But what if those memories that you carry around with you every day and that shape who you are, what if they could be recolored by the Sermon on the Mount, by the words of Jesus? How would that change who you are? I want you to hold that question with an open hand as we work through this second half, the second part of the Sermon on the Mount. If my memories were all recolored by these words, how would it change who I am? So here we go. Sermon on the Mount, part 2. Be careful not to practice your justice, your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. When you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do. When you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Now, for centuries, God commanded his people to care for the poor in highly visible ways. Farming. It was let the poor and the foreigner and the orphan and the widow eat food from your fields. It was do not oppress them. Be open-handed. So was Jesus trying to make all that go away? Like, We can't have this care be visible. Well, how does your left hand not know what your right hand is doing? There's only one way: muscle memory. It's when you do something so much that it becomes a part of who you are. And now you do it without thinking, driving, playing the piano, typing. It's This is just a part of me. My left hand doesn't even know what my right hand is doing. And Jesus wants our care for the vulnerable to become so much a part of us that it happens naturally. We don't even realize that it's happening. We hardly notice it. It's no more conscious action so that I can receive the credit and the praise, the pat on the back. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray on the street corner to be seen by others. Do not keep babbling like the pagans, for they think they'll be heard because of their many words. Don't be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. So Jesus says, let go of trying to impress everyone and God with your words. And so Jesus gives us this prayer that we are not likely to pray on our own. A prayer that is not about us getting God to do what we want God to do, but a prayer that is about us beginning to want what God wants. And if we will pray it regularly, it will form us. It will shape us. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, the Father of us. It's not just I'm praying to you, God, and it's you and me right here. It's I am joining a conversation in prayer that millions of people are participating in. People in Iran and China and Portland and Tillamook and Honduras and Rwanda and India. Our Father, the Father of us, our Father, the one in the heavens, as close as the air that I just breathed, and that seagull flying through the sky, and the sunset tonight, and the rain falling, and the moon, and even as far away as the distant galaxies. Our Father, Father of us, the one in the heavens. Hallowed be your name. It's show yourself, reveal yourself. God, we ache for you to bring your realities to our reality. May your kingdom come. None of these other kingdoms around me, around us, are getting it quite right. They never have, and they never will. So Jesus, let me be a part of your kingdom, the global people of God who are governed by King Jesus. So I'm praying with people on the other side of every border on the planet. And it changes the way that I hold my answers to the world's problems, because together we are asking God to do what only God can do. May your will be done on earth as it is in the heavens. God's will isn't being done on earth. Broken relationships, cycles and systems of destruction and racism, greed, disease, human trafficking, corruption, poverty. May your will be done on earth. It's we align our will with God's will so that God's rule can come on earth as it is in the heavens. Give us today our daily bread. Who planted the food that I just ate? Who tended it? Where was this animal raised and by whom? What was the migrant worker paid who picked this piece of fruit that I just ate? Who was the person who worked in the factory or in the kitchen to prepare what I just ate? Give us this day our daily bread. Our bread in a world with people living on a couple dollars a day, a food insecure world where so many people don't know where their next meal is coming from. Give us this day our daily bread. Bread, the outcome of struggle for millennia. God commanded his people to provide bread to the foreigner, the poor, the Levites, the fatherless, the orphans, the widows, the needy, even wild animals. Bread symbolized Jesus' body, broken, given for the world's forgiveness. And Jesus taught his disciples that bread broken and given is a recognition of his presence. I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. Inasmuch as you've done it to one of the least of these, you have done it unto me. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We live in a world full of signs. Trespassers will be shot on sight. Forgive them. Forgiveness, a washed face, to wipe away, to cleanse, to let go, to release, to set free, to abandon, to cancel our anger and our bitterness. Chronic anger and bitterness impairs thinking. It causes heart disease, diabetes, depression, a weakened immune system. We need to forgive, not only for the sake of others, but for our own sake. So, forgiveness, to release someone within our memory of the wrong. Now, the memory may never go away, but the wrong that they did becomes irrelevant to how we feel about them. So, it's developing eyes to look back and see that person who wounded us, not only as a person who wounded us. We look back and we see their humanity. They are a weak person. We look back and we see they were hurting, they were struggling, they were afraid, they were insecure. We learn somehow how to see their own woundedness and to see them with eyes of love. And as we do so, we learn to see ourselves in humility. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. God knows the factors that make for your perfect storm, the perfect you flavored temptation, the convergence of life events that all come together. You didn't see them coming, and all of a sudden you find yourself doing something that you regret. Lead us not into temptation. That moment when I, I feel like it was inevitable that I was going to do that. It's deliver us from evil. So it's God, give me a detour before I walk into this trap, before I walk into this perfect storm, before it's on top of me. God, help me with my choices today so I don't walk right into this. God, you can see ahead. Help me so I don't walk right into that perfect storm, that trap. Deliver us from evil. And that is as far as we have made it together through the Sermon on the Mount. These words of Jesus have been with us for centuries. So you've probably heard them before, over and over maybe, and you will probably hear them again, over and over. And they could mean nothing or they could mean everything. So the question is, how deeply will you let these words alter your perspective on life? Remember, when our perspective on life is altered, it changes the meaning that we attach to our memories. And so it's like our memories are recolored. And as those the meaning of those memories changes, it changes us. It changes what we fear and what we hope for and what ideology we're subscribing to and what habits we keep and what new habits we want to form and how we are engaging with the world. Now, with these words of Jesus, the words that you've just heard, if you could grab one of those colors, as it were, out of the box of crayons and say, I would love to have the ability to recolor the memories that have shaped me with that crayon, with those words of Jesus. What part is getting you today? What part would you say, I, I want that color to touch all of me, all of my memories, everything in who I am, to shape who I will be for the future? So pause the video and share that with one another. Invite the Holy Spirit to recolor your memories, to change the meaning of your memories, to alter your perspective on life, and pray for one another and pray for our world. So pause the video, have that conversation. Love you, friends.